A new work week in this job that puts the roof over my head. Grateful to have that job that allows me to ground in something different that than what I was applying myself in. I have lots of varying interests, but at the same time, I have lots of little projects and things that I'm doing, and that's because I can be easily distracted. And I would much rather have those projects and little things to do on the list when I have those distractions, and I can just go in and just focus on something else that's of interest or importance or on the goal list that I can work on rather than straying off and heading to the kitchen cupboards for cookies and crackers and try not to keep those things in my cupboards. Mind you, I was thinking about picking up some crackers today after work. Hi, everybody. If you've never met me before, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And on my days off, I usually apply myself on the inside. And then during the work week and the job that puts the roof over my head, it's in gratitude, it's in grounding in that humanness in me, and it's in a platform, right? Because I am grateful that I have a job that I can practice my craft, and that is in that connection with others who are trying to make movement in their own life, trying to untangle some of those wires that keep tripping us up. Oh my goodness. You know, it wasn't something that I wasn't aware of, but this was a lesson that came across my path. And again, I have to say sorry. I don't remember who the gentleman was that was putting this lesson. Maybe it'll come out as I'm talking about it. But I actually made a whole page of notes on the topic because I felt he hit a nail. It caught my attention. It was something that I resonated in, but some of the ideas as to why it happened or whether or not it's something good or something bad, he might have not gotten quite right in his analyzation, in his own analyzation, because lots of times you have to take opinions and ideas and you have to, like a puzzle, put everything together because, right, none of us are the be all to end all that have that answer. You just out there in the world and you're searching out that, you'll see that everybody is kind of smart in ways about certain aspects of the way that they move. They wouldn't have gotten this far if they didn't, right? And so we pick up these ideas, but we don't pick up everything, right? I wouldn't want you to pick up everything. I wouldn't want you running to the kitchen cupboards looking for cookies and crackers and right when you got stuff to do. And this is why I have these little projects, these little goals set out in my life so that when I do get distracted programming in my hypervigilance and something that I grew into, and it's that wire that trips me up, but I have little ways, little inventive, creative ways that I go about, right? It's not bypassing those trip ups because there are lessons in the trip ups too, 100%, right? You trip over something, you get a boo boo. You certainly don't want to do it again. And there's, right? It's never ending. But sometimes those small trip ups become our biggest trip ups because they're the first thing we encounter, or it's something that in our programming that, well, to get right into it, the topic, dry bagging. It was the first time that I'd ever come across that terminology, yet I recognized it right away. Right? Say it again. Dry bagging, not bagging, bagging, right? And it was something that I learned very early, like very, very early. So early that I didn't even recognize that there was a terminology, right? For what I was doing in order to get my needs met. right? You've heard me talk about dancing around the subjects, dancing around the trees, right? Hinting. This is the way I moved my entire life. I was programmed not to ask. I was. I was programmed not to tell, which means keeping the family secrets within the family, not to weigh those burdens on others necessarily, not to invite people's opinions and ideas and solutions, right? I was programmed in that. And in my creative way, in my mind, my solution was not to ask, right? Not to ask. And it was an amazing way not to ask because I got to recognize kindnesses. Because anything I got was through a kindness of somebody else. Even if it was just a scrap being thrown across the table at me, I would gobble that up and I would be grateful for that and I would recognize the kindness of that gift. I didn't understand in those younger years that some of those gifts came at a cost. I didn't understand that. I was only looking at my needs being met and who was meeting those needs and how amazing and kind and smart and rich and powerful these people were. And dry bagging, yesterday was the first time, well, day before yesterday was the first time I heard the terminology. I put it in my notes. I kind of delved into it a little bit on my own behalf. But this idea not to help the dry baggers, oh my goodness, it kind of broke my heart because the dry bagging was the only thing that saved me. The only thing that kept it so that some of my needs were being met, that I was able to dance somehow or get somebody's attention or have sympathy directed at me. And I would take the sympathy too. And that's a terrible thing to have to swallow, the pity and the sympathy, right? But I took that all too because my needs had to be met somehow. Dry bagging was a survival tactic for me. It was to offer up opportunities to others to do a kindness. Didn't understand that sometimes kindnesses came with a cost. I didn't get that. In the moment I just recognized that where my needs were being met. And when I was asked to be pulled away from that which was fulfilling my needs, coming to the rescue, saving my butt, I felt like a betrayal because they saved me, right? And now I was taking myself out of their presence and I recognized, right, that to some being alone is the greatest pain ever, right? Whether you're an empath, highly sensitive, if you want to call yourself a highly sensitive, whether you're a narcissist, whether you're a borderline, we're all out there searching for something that will keep us company in our misery, or to lighten the load, or to cheer us up, or to make us feel valued. And that's the truth, right? If somebody's dancing, if they've got something to say, but they can't say it, they've been programmed to keep it a secret. They've been programmed to do it on their own. They've been programmed, right, to just not burden others with our needs. And if you can recognize somebody who is dry bagging, can we at very least look into why are they dry bagging? Where's that source? What happened? Right? You can get lots of answers in that. And in all honesty, you can recognize, right? You can recognize the light and the darknesses from the fact that they're not asking, right? But they're finding ways, they're being creative in the way they get the message across, right? And if that's dry bagging, That's creative, right? And if you recognize that, well, now that's on your plate, right? I'm sorry. It's on your plate. You can ignore it if you want to. You can bring it to somebody else's attention. That would be helpful, right? You can have a talk with that person, and if you listen to my talks, you might have a little bit of inspiration or a little bit of information that might help them to just keep moving, right? Despite dry bag and it had me in a stump, and I had stuff to do yesterday. I was so wiped out, right? I did my video. I got my video up. That's the only thing I needed to accomplish besides getting started on my winter closet. And I got started on that because I wasn't pleased with how much I got done in that yesterday. I got up this morning and I did a little bit more. I'm good with what I accomplished, right? Right? I guess that's why things have been a little bit more difficult because I'm not doing that song and dance that I'm trying to do this on my own and be that evidence that it can be done with or without, right? That help, with or without that little bit of kindness, or with or without that offering of something that might have a little bit of attachment to us, but in our choices we get to decide whether or not the pain is too difficult, that we'll take that and serve that at a later date, or just say no thank you, we can do it on our own, right? Appreciate the kindness, right? Because no matter what, whether it's in somebody else's mind or not, it was still what you needed in the moment, right? And you still got that kindness, and that's something to be grateful for, right? I am a dry bagger, and I hope somebody out there recognize when I'm doing that dry bagging. I've done a lot of it in my life, and I apologize for the burden that it's put on others, right? And force people to do kindnesses when maybe they didn't want to, or tallied them up waiting for a payday in that return, right? Those are the attachments, those are the strings. And that can be where betrayal and guilt and shame can sit very deeply. So I'm grateful for the lesson that came across my path. I do now have to start the week, right? Start the work week in the job that allows me to ground it, to take me away from some of these subjects that can be heavy sometimes, but at the same time, right? You play with those wires, you start picking away at them and untangling them a little bit, right? Sometimes it's just the understanding that takes away the weight, that takes away the burden, that takes away the frustration, that takes away the fear, right? Takes away the unmotivation and brings about change. Okay, you guys, that's my good chair, and we'll see you tomorrow. I'll be hacking away at another video. Hopefully, tonight I will start going into my content to see how I'm going to creatively put together another little segment of my trip. I think the hardest part was the last video because I didn't have much, because I did a big delete on some of my content at the beginning of my trip, but I think we're over that hump. So let's see what the next one brings about. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.